HubSpot. And he was one of the he's a senior solutions engineer at HubSpot, and he talked about his experiences, rather inspiring in that regard, because he talked about a few things that honestly stuck with me. And today we are joined by Madhu. Madhu, please introduce yourself to the audience. And yeah, Madhu, I think you're muted. Madhu, I think you're muted. Sorry.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yep. You got it.
Okay, I can start sharing my screen and I can start from there. That would be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hey everyone, thanks Ethan and thanks Franz for inviting me here. Thank you TechOpps for having me here today and providing me the platform to share my experience with all of you. I'll be sharing 5 tips for your career growth with all of you today. I received these tips very early on in my career and I applied all the time and it definitely works. I also want you to know that these 5 tips can be applied for any industry, any sort of uh, age. There is no age barriers, there is no industry barriers. So you should totally apply it. Uh, it helps me all the time, and whenever I'm changing, whenever I'm thinking of going into doing something completely new, uncharted territories, I do look into this and then see whether things align with who I am as a personality. So I hope you will also find this helpful. And the structure of this session, so is going to be, first I'll talk a little bit about myself and my background, and then tips for your career growth. Then finally we'll do a little bit of a recap, then follow up with any questions that you have. In between, if you have any questions, feel free to ping. Happy to help anytime. So with that, a little bit about myself and my background. I have an undergrad in electronics and communications. Then I have a master's degree in telecom and management. I started my career just in engineering, a company called Acme Packet down in uh, Boston area. So once I started, I like in a really quick time span, I understood that my capacity of working in engineering is not something that is very fulfilling for me as a personality. So I moved into product management. Long story short, I'm right now I work as a principal product manager at Twilio, and I do have like 10 years or 10 plus years of experience in telecom space. I build strategies and innovative solutions for customers to digitize their communication. That's kind of like the space that I work in. Uh, with that, let's go ahead and start. Um, Tip number 1 for today. First, know your strength. All of us are very different in many ways. What inspires me may not necessarily inspire you. So, for instance, you may be completely a detail oriented person, or you could be a very good narrator, or a storyteller, or a very good communicator. Some people could be like, I solve problems really quick. Someone could be very innovative in providing solutions. So, when you add like think of this and add to the list, you can add more and more to the list. There is no end in this, but as you can see, all of us are very unique. So it is very important when you're thinking of changing your career or thinking of starting something brand new, it's very important to play to your strength, because when you do that and apply that to a career or a role change in an organization that best fits your personality, then the job that you're doing or going to do will become much easy. So the way you can also measure this, you will right away know that you have done the right job or you have picked the right thing, is simply by asking few questions to your own self. You can ask and then see, hey, is is the job really making me happy? Am I really energized to do the job? Every day I'm doing the same job, is it making me bored or is it draining my energy? So those kind of questions will help you navigate and understand it suits my personality and that's what I'm supposed to do. So these key questions you should ask yourself in different stages of your career. So because sometimes you are in a very early on stage of a career, so your interest and your goals are very different, and then when you are in a mature phase or your life has changed a bit, it is once again it's good to ask and see that you are in harmony with your own self. That's very important to understand. Next, tip number 2, push your limits. Knowing your strength is like a building block, and then it helps you push your limits. So, for example, one person can really operate under pressure and provide a very fine results. They can be very chill, very calm, and then the work will come at burst and they will deliver it without any worries. For some, it has to be consistent. They will deliver results every day, and they slice their work in small chunks and then they do it, they go in a very organized, methodical manner. One is not better than the other. That's not the point here. The point is what the personality you are, so bet on it and accordingly find what is your limits are. So for a personality like me, I cannot work in a very consistent manner. I work in burst. Sometimes I work all night long. Sometimes I'm like, okay, today I'm gonna just take a break. So it depends on different type of personality and what interests you as well. So for me, I personally bet on more, and I know what my limits are, and I will be totally fine. And I have done that numerous number of times. um, like if like most of the time I would not even know what the opportunity is going to be. I'm completely unaware of, or it will be a uncharted territory for me. But my natural tendency is to just simply go ahead and try it. Yes, I do not get to feel calm or anything. I do feel really, really nervous. I do feel sweaty. I cannot get away with that, but I love it. That's what gives me that adrenaline rush that I crave for. So that's something that really works for a people of my type. So if you are of that person, I would definitely say go ahead and try it. Maybe if I give another analogy. So for example, another way to think about this is, so if you are a football player, you can push your limits in the area of where the football boundary is, right? But I'm not saying push your limits and then go and try something like pop music. I guess you get the point. So know your strength and build on it and then push it so that you are comfortable at the same time you can handle it in a much more ease. All right, with that. Now, tip number 3. So there is no playbook. There is no one size that fits all. Um, there are various reasons why it is like that. A, we are all different personality, and B, our interests are very, very different. And C, each one of us personal life, we all have different experiences and we go through different phases. Take this current pandemic. Everybody is going through this COVID-19, and it has touched all of us in a in various ways. If you ask, some people would say that, hey, my kid is sick, I have to take care of them. Somebody would say that my company is really doing great and I have no problem. Somebody would say my company is really, really doing bad and I lost my job. Or somebody would say they reduced the salary that they are providing, things like that. Even in personal experience, somebody would have to take care of their parents. Somebody would be like, I'm too worried about because parents are not close by. All sort of different experiences, but the common subject is pandemic. And right from soups to nuts, it changes everything based on what the current scenario they are in. So therefore, natural tendency is to expect that the path that we are going to take for our career growth is naturally going to be different. So for instance, how I became a product manager will be a story for another time. But the point is that the path that I have taken really worked for me and for my personality. But at the same time, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should not listen to more successful people, what they have achieved. You should not, I'm not saying that you should not look up to them. All I'm saying is know their stories, so that gives you more and more new ideas. But at the same time, find your own path, define your own path. That is very, very important. So for this, let's consider three different personas. Let's analyze them. Let's take Susan, Bob, and Mike. And all of them are working in a company A, right? And the company is process oriented. They give you good money. They give you good title because there is a lot of hierarchy. All that is there. So now let's define the personality. So Susan and Bob is of very similar age, 25 to 35, right? They are starting or like getting to be in that mid level of their career. And then Mike is another personality that we are talking about. The persona would be like 45 to 55 years in age. And he's in a different life aspect. So it's like in a middle life, he might have kids, right? All that. So Susan, by personality, she's very enthusiastic. She's very energetic. She wants to do more. Her interest is like uh, she wants to grow up in ladder, and she would like to have more bigger, better titles. She likes good package. Obviously, everybody loves money. So she is also of that type. And this company exactly provides what she wants. So it's easier for her to navigate in this environment, and her manager is very supportive, or upper management is very supportive. So she's reaching her goals with so ease, and for her it just flows. When you look at her from the outside perspective, it's like wow, her life looks very nice. Now let's come to Bob, who's of very similar age. He's not interested in titles. Yeah, money, yeah, sure, but he's not interested in title. But what he's interested in doing very interesting projects. This company is more of a mature company. They are not interested in doing newer or exciting projects, but exactly that's what Bob needs. So Bob goes and then chat with his manager or management, but nothing happens. He keeps getting frustrated. Well, the same company, similar type of personality, but the interest is very different, right? So for Susan, it worked very well. The same company for Bob does not work well. So instead of staying in the same company and getting frustrated, it's time for him to move on and look for the next company. But when Bob has to move on and look for the company, he has to create a checklist and ensure that, okay, I need money or package, and then I need an interesting profile or interesting work. That's what I want. That's what makes him happy. So he has to write it down before he goes and look for the new job. Now let's come to our third personality, our third persona, which is Mike, who's in 45 to 55 years of age, works in the same company, right? So he has a kid in middle school, and there is another kid in high school. His interest is a comfort work where he has done it many times, and people can trust him because he has already built the credibility with the team. So he can do the work um, with just in minutes, not to fret over it and not work overtime. He does not want to do all of that. And he just want to do like 9 to 5 jobs so he can spend the remaining amount of time with his family and his kids. So the company A provides that it has all the tools necessary for him to support it. Somebody is talking, I guess. Okay, I think someone has muted. Okay, thank you. So that becomes a great fit. This company A becomes a great fit for Mike. So it totally depends on your personality and your interest. So make sure you ask the questions before you are making a change or going up in your career. Is that really what you want? Is that fits your personality or your interest? Is it in harmony with with the way that you live your life? That's very, very important. Now comes step 4. You gotta ask. If you're not asking, nobody is going to ask for you. There is no harm in asking. So, for example, you see a post in your company itself saying that, okay, there is a next higher level role is open for you. Nobody is going to come and say, hey, there is this role is open. Would you be interested in doing it? If at all, if it happens, it's very, very, very rare cases that has happened. So unless you ask for it, you're not going to get it. So don't assume that people will give it to me and I have all the elements and they're supposed to consider me. Don't do that. Don't make that mistake. A lot of people do it. I have done it. So please go ahead and say, what's the worst it can happen, right? My rule of thumb is always like, maximum what people can say, no, big deal, right? But I have asked, I showed up, I moved away from that awkward moment. I pushed it away. I had the courage. I can just simply go and ask. And it will also help the management to understand that you're really looking for the next job in your career and you're ready for it. And believe it or not, surprisingly, these kind of conversations will open up and provide you very different and new perspective for you. Um, happened with me. So there are one or two things can happen. Number one thing, yeah, they can say yes and you can go for it. So number two thing, it can happen is such that they will say no. But don't just leave when they say no. Ask why. Why not me? What am I lacking? Right? When you ask that question, you uncover that it could be simply a wrong assumption about you. They think that you are not capable of doing XYZ, but you are really capable, but you're not projecting that or you're not providing that confidence to that management. So you can clarify that with them. So that can happen. And another thing can happen is they really can tell you that you are missing certain qualities. So if you build on that particular skill set, then in the next following appraisal, then I can consider you. So here what you have done is you have uncovered some of the blind spots you thought that you had, but you clearly lacked. So there is an opportunity for you to learn more here. So that's another nice way to understand, kind of getting like a 360-degree review about your own self, knowingly or unknowingly. And the last thing that can also happen is, it's just that the very rare cases again, but the company could be really bad and they don't want to do anything for you, and you have come to know about it. And probably that was the last push that you needed before you can pivot. So that kind of like, okay, I got it. Now I understand it's not going to happen here. So it's better for me to just move out. So please never ever hesitate to ask. Always ask. Last but not the least, build your own network. Um, having a group of people to lean on is a must. I cannot emphasize this. Like, it's really, really an important growth, because these people can be your mentor, can be a friend, can be a colleague. So as we grow in our lives, we tend to live in our own bubble. We become very aloof, or sometimes it's just the circumstances. Like, you are just too much into your own life and you hadn't had the connection. Sometimes it's just that you went into something where none of your friends or your circle of people that you know are aware of those things and they were able to guide you. That's totally not good. You should always have like a trusted set of people where you can share your ideas, you can bounce back and talk about what's going on. It is always necessary to do that, because simply by sharing your ideas with them, the person who's hearing it from yours, from on the other side, they have to be very frank and genuine. There is no judgment here, because they are going to be your friends or mentors. In some cases they can be your well-wishers too. All they want is good thing for you, and they are genuinely giving you feedback. We don't want somebody who simply say yes for everything that we do or yes for everything that we say. So we don't want that. So a person who can really provide good advice on saying, okay, you have taken the right step or the wrong step, or keep you in check. In my case, I call them my gatekeepers. Am I doing something really dumb or stupid, or am I doing the right thing? So you should have those kind of people, because once you have them, when you're making a change or making these kind of, like, sometimes it's like, oh, two different jobs. It's as simple as that, two different job offer that you get, and you don't know which path to take. If they are a well wisher and they are already at that level or even beyond that, they would be able to guide you and help you, because sometimes there are too many variables around you. It's the circumstance, um, how the technology field is going, and what you want in your life, what's your interest, and what your personality. So amalgamating all of these variables helps you to
Hello, hello.
Did we,
I think we
did
lost
we
her.
just lose Madhu?
We lose her.
No,
I
no.
think so. Oh no, what is going on? Hello everyone. Maybe Madhu is having some technical. He just got kicked from the uh event. Hope everyone can wait for a while. If you guys have any questions about all the tips that Madhu has shared to us, you guys can ask questions in the chat below. Or if you have other questions you have in mind, yeah.
Yeah, let's just wait for Madhu. And if ever you guys have any more questions, at least they'll be ready by the time she's back. Hopefully.
Yes. All right. Maybe you guys wanna, open your mics, talk with us right now while we're waiting for Madhu.
Guys, we would like to ask some feedback. How do you think we could help make Tech Talks a bit better for you?
your soul. So these are some opportunities that helps you do that.
There's your,
So
Um,
this is
so I hope this helps. These tips are very useful for you. With that, let's open it up for any questions that you may have.
all right. Madhu, I got a question.
Yeah, sure.
So you mentioned about finding strength and knowing, like, somehow knowing yourself. Are there any tips or tricks on, how to find your own strength, and you know how you can build on that?
Yeah, so I'm sure all of us have heard this somewhere, and if you have read the books, you would know this as well. One easier way to understand is you ask the true colleagues or true friends of yours to evaluate yourself. Give them the 360-degree, like ask them for a genuine review, and ask them why. If they say, "Hey, you're really good at it," then you can ask them why. Why do you think that I'm good at it? That will give you the answer as why they think that you are going to do that. And sometimes you just know it, but hearing it from one other person, it just an additional addendum to your own knowledge, right? So that really helps. Is
all
that?
right. Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that clears things up.
All right. For the audience, if you have any questions for Madhu, please do ask below in the chat box. And Madhu, I do have a question for you. You said always ask questions, and I would like to ask, how do you build up the confidence to ask questions like that? To ask questions that can help better yourself?
How do we ask questions? Sorry, repeat your question, Ethan.
Sorry.
Can you repeat your question?
Oh yeah, like so. How do you build the confidence to ask questions to help better yourself?
That's always the. I think that's always the tough thing to do, especially if the personality is very introvert. They don't want to ask the question. But in this case, the where I'm saying asking a question is for your own personal growth. So you build the courage, and I'm not saying ask in front of everyone. That's too much nerve wracking for some folks. So you can go into a personal conference room or go into one-on-one conversations with your manager, and then ask the question that, hey, I'm really interested in doing it. And sometimes you can be really open and say that I'm nervous to take the job, but I want to try it. And if you think that I'm like, if they say that the counter answer could be that, hey, I don't think so you are there yet. It's okay to hear that as an answer, and you can counter that with, thank you for sharing that, can you help me understand what I'm missing, and so that I can work on my next year as I'm growing in my career. So those are something that you can have an open conversation, which will be very easy to have when you have just in one-on-one conversation, not in front of everyone. So that way, that should help.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right.
And I think I do see some questions. How do we know the right question to ask? Um, that's a very good question. So the right question to ask is depends on who you are talking to and what, like, you have to give me the scenario or some context. So over here the topic is about career growth. And so career growth, there are multiple questions. So if you are in the same company, same organization, then the growth of their career is about, okay, how do I move into the next role? Or I saw XYZ, so you think that I should be moving in. Or the another way to put that question is, you think that, do you, so if you are not confident about yourself, you can ask the other way around, like, do you think that all the skill set that is presented here, I already have it? Do you believe it? Would you give it to me? These are something you can keep it as open-ended, so it provides the person who could be your manager can help you answer and then guide you in the right direction. The same person have asked, how do we look for mentors? Yes, so I do always look for mentors. So when you're looking for mentor, one suggestion I would give you is, go all the way up in your ladder. Like, you are working in, like, you have a CEO, CTO, probably a business unit, GM, depends on how the organization is structured. Don't follow the same structure. Don't go into that line of business where you want to go into a VP and ask for a mentorship. Rather, go in another team where it could be a salesperson, or it could be a marketing person, or it could be an operational person, or it could be support. Go a little bit higher up in a ladder, like a VP level, and then ask them to be your mentor. So that way you can be open about things. You can openly discuss, even if you have some clashes with your own manager, you would be able to discuss with the other organization without having to worry about how that will affect me internally. So I would definitely suggest you find somebody in a parallel or in a tangential organization where you can build. And people are generally open to being mentors. You will be surprised to see how many people will just simply say yes to support you. So definitely do that. Oh wow, a lot of questions are coming up. The next person have asked, have you encountered people you can't trust? How do you identify those people you can share your ideas to? Super good question. Yes, I do. I have encountered. Um, so I have learned it the hard way. I don't share my ideas with my immediate peers, because what happens is sometimes you don't know you. It's difficult to judge. They could simply take your ideas and present your idea as their ideas. That's why you should have that trusted group of people who can be your mentors, right? So when you pick a mentor of a higher level who's at a VP or a CTO, CEO level, they are, majority of the time, they are not going to snatch it away from you. They are going to pull you up so that you can grow. By you growing, it's going to help them as well as in the company. Or you can completely have somebody outside of your organization where you worked in a previous organization and you have built a rapport with few folks, and then you can come up and then ask for a mentorship. So that's the way that I do. And I generally, so if you think that the person of your same peer or the one or those folks who try to snatch away or may not be trustable, but if they are in higher level in the management, they tend to help you, and pretty much you can trust that. I haven't had any bad experiences in that way though. um, can we fix the mistake we made early in our career? Oh, definitely. That's not at all a problem. You should be open to fix it. You would have definitely learned a lot from your career. So if you ask me, I can openly share this with you. um, I used to get very worried if something goes wrong, or I said something in a meeting that's not, I should not be saying that, things like that. And then you look back and you really feel like you feel very guilty sometimes that you have said something like that in a meeting where you couldn't handle it, and everybody does it because it's just part of everybody's level of growing up. We all try to face these kind of scenarios. You are definitely not alone. And one of my mentor, she was a VP at that time, and she told me that you just made a mistake, so what, it's just a big deal, just shrug it off and move on. And she said, at my level, how many mistakes I do every day, and if I sit and then worry about you, how do I move about it? So you have to always look at the big picture and then think about it and move on. And if you made a small mistake, or even if it is a big mistake, so what, move on and then go on to the next one. You'll be totally fine, and you will do better because you have already done the mistake and you know how to avoid it. So you will be ahead of other people. How can we build a good foundation early on for our career? Uh, so I think I'm fortunate that way because I have come from engineering, and then after that I have taken masters. Uh, One way for me to understand is there is some sort of a guiding path to understand what you want to do next. Sometimes it's good to have some no plan too, because when you don't have any plan, you're open to newer opportunities and you can go and grab them. But when you're in a fixed goal that's saying, hey, I want to go and start a business, or you're saying that I want to go ahead and do get into a career level of XYZ, then even though there are some very good opportunity that comes across to you, you might not be interested in taking it up. So that way, sometimes no plan is also a good plan. But I don't think so. For laying a foundation, if you have some sort of idea as what your next, not like 5 years or 10 years, in the next 6 months, if you have a goal like, I want to become a senior software engineer, or I want to become a product manager. So once you understand that that's what you want to do, the foundation for that is to identify what's the skill set that is needed and start approaching folks who are in that field that can help you, guide you with books, guide you with material. In some cases, you can also get familiarized with just doing shadowing of that person if they already do that in your work. Or just co-working with those people will also help. Those kind of things that you can build based on what stages of your career are you in. Do you have any tips for profile building? Uh, yes, I do, and that's a huge topic to talk about. If you have any specific questions, Matt, I can help you with that. Uh, but otherwise, the basic tips I would give you for profile building is something. Start off with don't give too much details like 10 years before what you had done. Rather highlight what's, so if you're going for a new job interview, highlight what the job needs and what's your how your profile is matching. And when you are explaining something as an answer to a question in an interview, always start with narrating what the problem is and then say what the solution is and what your involvement in solving that solution. That's always catches the interviewer attention. um, what's a good way to be able to build your network early? Network early is usually the good way is where you are connected with. So you could be connected with your friends, or your professors if you're in school still, or if the first job itself where you're finding. Don't just hang out with your level of friends where you know from school, where you know from college. Try to hang out with a little bit higher level people who are seniors, people who are principals, who are VP. Try to learn the job from them, build a rapport, go for a coffee hangout or have a lunch with them. Uh, just have a like a one-on-one meeting with them once in a while. So those kind of things will help you build, and that's the one way to build it. Um, and then if you are particular in certain like certain networking events, you are into AI, you are into machine learning, you can look up. There are a lot of events that goes in, so hang out with those groups, and if they are a talker, try to connect with them, have a meaningful conversation. So whenever you are trying to go and reach out to folks who are like um, uh, presenters or speakers, they get a tons of requests too. So make sure that um, the conversation with them is going to be meaningful so that it's a successful networking one. And networking does not mean that, okay, I speak with XYZ person, now I build a network. That's not networking. Networking should be something that I can rely on that person. So when I need a job, I can really ask them and they will definitely forward my resume. Or if they are at that level, they can even pull me in. That's called networking. So build a meaningful relationship with whomever you are building. That's very important. So do you have tips for how to cope when one gets rejected in multiple job applications? Uh, um, that's a tough question to answer. So one way to do that is if you are getting a rejection for a job application, um, you should ask the person who's sending a rejection. Sometimes it's just a recruiter who's saying that, hey, sorry, thanks for applying, so we are moving ahead. Go ahead and ask what is the reason that you have been rejected for, and ask them to provide you the reasoning. And then tell them that next time around you will build on it. Or another way to do that is also, if you are in a phone screening or anything, you can ask what is the what are the next steps and how it get moving forward. Sometimes you can even guess, okay, I have done a very bad job at this interview, and once you know it, you can openly ask about, hey, how am I doing in this interview, and if you think that I'm not good, can you quote me so that I will be prepared for my next interviews. So those people who are seeing you or interviewing you at that moment will be a right candidate to tell you what you are missing. So that would be a good way to learn. And in relationship to networking, can we connect with you on LinkedIn? Yes, definitely you can. Please send me a LinkedIn request. You can connect with me. What do you think are the mistakes people make early in their careers? Mistakes people do make is they don't really ask. Uh, when they say a new job or a new profile, they are too hesitant, especially if you are a woman. All of us have done it, and there are studies which states that that also is true. Is unless you know it 100% that you can do the job, they will not say that I want to take up the job. That is something that people do as a mistake, because there is nothing called you would know 100%. You will always learn in your job. So that's why I keep saying that know your strength, then you can push your limits. So that way it will help you and also guide you. So, and if you are too nervous about it, you can even ask the next person who is taking up the job. You can shadow the job with them so you understand. And if that company is not something that you're going to change, but the next company you're looking for, you can use the shadowing experience as a stepping stone for your next career move. So definitely ask. Ask is something that people do that they failure to see. And another failure I see people is they misunderstand the job profile, or they think that the title is really fancy and that's what I want to do. But that will not suit their career. And like I've seen some folks recently, like because I think off late product management, the title seems very fancy. So a lot of folks comes into product management. But I have few friends who got frustrated with it, and within like 3 months, they want to change into a different career profile. Like they are very early on in their career, still it's fine. But I think if you would have thought about it a little bit and take an effort to understand what the job is, you might not have made that mistake. So that is something to think about. Do you work on other side projects? If so, how do you balance all the things you do? Um, like I said, Matt, I don't work in a consistent manner. Someday I work a lot. Someday I work like probably 2 hours. Someday it's like 12 hours. And it all depends on my interest. So I do have some side projects that I do work on. I do help mentoring folks. I do have certain folks that I help with. And I also send out some articles that I write, things like that I do as an extra other than my day job. But the things that I do as a hobby are all my personal interest. I don't have to push anything for it, or I don't have to really put an effort to make that happen. It just comes to me naturally. So my hobbies are such that it's easier for me to work. So it doesn't feel like a job to me at all. So that's why I think I'm cool with it. And and my intent is to just help people, and not I'm not trying to monetize anything out of it. So because of those reasons, I think me not being consistent also works out for me in my hobby side. So um, so how do we network with people properly? Hey Hannah, so that's a very good question. So network with is it's just not one conversation that you can simply say that you're networking. Rather, have a conversation with that person multiple times. Keep multiple meetings. Follow up. Be attentive and listening in that meeting. And networking is also something that it's not that you are alone going to get something out of it. The person who's networking with you is also getting something from you. So when it is a two-way conversations or a two-way thing, it's very it's mutual. Understanding is mutual. They know that they can help you when you are in need, and they can rely on you when you are in need. So if you start to build that meaningful relationship, um, then yes, it does work out in the long run. I think that's pretty much all the questions
Yeah.
we have so far.
All right. Uh, so from the audience, if you guys want to ask more questions, you guys might want to open your mic. Uh, you can ask. Yeah, you can ask. No need to be shy. Less like
Mm-hmm.
what Matthew talked about. Yeah, you have to overcome, yeah, that confidence to ask questions. Oh, there you
Uh,
are. Hannah
yeah.
wants to speak.
Okay,
Go ahead.
hi. Hi,
Hi,
Manu.
Anna. Hi.
Okay, I have a question here. What's the
Sure.
hardest thing you had to go through in your career in the tech? Because, like, everyone, I know that everyone has a hard time and go through struggles. So, what's one of the hardest things you've gone through, and how are you able to get past that?
Okay, so one of my really hardest thing I have gone through from my career growth profile is changing the job from engineering to product management. I think that I had a very tough time, in the sense that I really understood that the job that I was doing was not really providing all the aspects of like not fulfilling all the aspects of my skill set. So I was like, okay, so this is not the job I want. I understood that. But I really didn't have a clue what I should be doing next. People gave me random ideas. They gave me, hey, you should be a sales engineer. You should be a solution engineer or a solution architect. You should be on the customer front. And I just graduated from school, so I didn't have a lot of knowledge about what are different profiles and how it could happen. So I, that's when I started looking out for my mentors, because people in my own peers were not able to help me much. So I had a couple of mentors around that time. I went to them and said, hey, can you guide me what I should be doing next? And I did look at their profile, and the reason I chose them for my mentorship was I was warmed by what they have achieved at that level, and I want to become like, it's not like I'm trying to imitate them, but I like their profile, I like their career path. So I went to them, and they suggested few options. And out of that, one person really suggested that product management would be a good fit for you. Then I went and then searched about what product management is. my organization internally did have a product management team, so I had a conversation with them to understand what it is like to do the job. It felt like that's exactly goes with my personality. Uh, I'm very outgoing. I can talk to anyone. I can ask questions anytime. Um, I'm good at articulating the problems for the customers at the same time articulating it to the engineers. So it kind of worked very nicely for me. Uh, but then the transition was very, very painful. I wasn't sure whether I was going to get the job in the same company or I have to move to a different company to make that happen. I think that period was really painful. Uh, but I also learned that from one of my mentors that you should not just change the company because one thing is not happening. So you have to be really patient and determined, then only things can happen. So I did wait for almost a year before I can change. And then I started working like a half job for my current role and then the half for the product management role. And then I changed on. But that was a very interesting experience. Thinking back, um, the patience that I had really paid me the way for my future, I would say. That was a very difficult thing that I faced.
Okay, thanks, Madhu. I really thank you for sharing your experience.
Sure.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Madhura. I like how you talked about having the patience and all. Because a lot of young people these days, they're impatient with everything that's going on. They want to rise up the industry fast. They neglect the learning process that they have to go through.
Right.
So,
So
for the audience, if anybody else got any questions, please feel free to ask.
all right,
Mhm.
this looks like I guess that's it for the audience. Then no more
Yeah,
questions.
apparently so.
If that's the case, then I guess we can ask some concluding questions.
Hmm. All right. So, Drew, I would like to ask, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you started working from home during the quarantine?
Very good. If I knew that my health is going to be this much affected and I'm going to be Zoom fatigue, um, that would have been nice to know. Because my routine is completely screwed up. If I don't like, I just go from one meeting to another meeting without a break. Um, I think when I was at work, if I'm going from meeting to meeting, I'm walking to the meeting room, so it's kind of nice, and you see people. Now it's like I'm just looking at the monitor all the time, and sometimes I'm eating lunch with my meeting on. I'm not even moving. And if I look at how many steps I have taken for a day, sometimes it's 100 steps. So I think in the long run, it's really bad because you don't have a routine, and health-wise, it's going to affect us, all of us, big time. So that would be something that if I would have known. Now I'm trying to keep it better. Like I do have some, like I end my meetings like 5 minutes earlier than what it's supposed to be, and I start meetings sometime. I just schedule only for like instead of a 1 hour meeting, I schedule for 55 minutes or 50 minutes meeting, just to have that time. And then I schedule like 1 hour for walking or doing some sort of exercise instead of just sitting and then talking to folks. That I wish I would have known that early.
Your Hans, you're in mute, Hans.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, it's I guess that applies to many people as well, especially in the quarantine. So yeah,
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
Um. A question we'd ask is, if you were in our position or in the audience position, what would you have asked yourself?
If I'm in the for this particular section, this TikTok series, you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think most of the question that I wanted to ask, I have already seen it. There is nothing that comes to me like right away. So I would probably ask, can you be my mentor? That would be something that I would ask if I was in the audience.
So maybe anyone from the audience would like to ask that.
Yeah.
All right.
Hmm.
Well, if there's if there's none, I guess the audience is shy. They can connect with you on LinkedIn, and they can ask you directly there, right?
Yeah.
All right. I guess that's it for us. Hans, take it away.
All right. Wait. So, I guess that's it for today's episode of Tech Talks. Thank you, Madhu, once again for coming to the show. Thank you to the audience for coming in today and helping us make this episode a success once again. And see you next time in the next episode. Thank you again, Madhu. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Take
It's
care.
been great to talk to you. Take care.
Bye.
Goodbye. Take care.
Bye.